Hello everyone, welcome to video number 4 of the beginner sewing series. Today we will be making a custom drawstring bag / money bag and a thong, especially for my exotic dancer babes. But hey, who doesn't need their own money bag? It's cute, it's custom, you can keep your makeup in it, your belongings, you can make one to match with your outfits. It's up to you. So today's materials, of course, will be fabric of your choice, scissors, a seam ripper, safety pins, and elastic cording to string your bag and thong with. I use a 2mm cord from Conmay on my thongs, as well as a cording I use to string my bags. You can find these materials at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Michaels, as well as Amazon, which is where I ordered mine, and I will be sure to link those below. So the size of your bag depends on how big you actually want it, and that's also going to determine how much fabric you use. Generally, I say half fabric or way less than that would be more than enough to do this project. As you see here, I'm about to start cutting my bag into basically a rectangular shape. Now you do need to keep in mind what the overall size you want your bag to be, and remember to add the seam allowance, which I will be showing you on the sewing machine. After you actually sew the project together, the seam allowance is going to cause it to be a little bit smaller than you actually cut out. So you have to account for that, and if you want your bag to be a little bigger than that, then remember to add on that extra allowance. So I'm cutting across the top part of the bag now. The right sides are together, always right sides together, and we're just going to pin this on both sides. I didn't actually cut the bottom of the bag, but of course if you did, you want to pin that area as well, especially being a beginner, so you know everything's holding in place. So I've got one side done, the other side done. See there? We're gonna sew going all the way around the bag, leaving the top part open. As you can see here, I have both sides of the bag pinned and the top part open, and that's the part we will fold and string later on. I have my pins facing towards me in a way that'll be easy to pull out as I sew. You can have it like this as I have it, or you can pin to the side. Either way, as you sew, you'll be able to easily remove the pins so they don't get run over by the sewing machine, because that would definitely damage your machine. On the bottom plate of the machine, you will see here there are some lines and numbers. These are your seam allowance. It shows you where you want to line your fabric up to get that desired seam allowance. As you see here, I have 3/8, the first one, then going over to 1/2, 5/8, 3/4, and 1 inch you see on the end and that gray part. Today I'll be using a 5/8 seam allowance to sew this bag, so you will get an example of what that looks like today. As always, we're going to back stitch to lock our stitching in place. I'm on a straight stitch today. And as you see, I am pulling my pins out as I go because the ball is facing towards me. And I can just set that on my handy dandy magnetic case. Woo woo, Walmart. And continue to sew down. Gently holding your fabric to keep it lined up. Taking out the pins as you go. Want to look crooked there, that's all right. It's for educational purposes only. and on down. As you see, I slid that last pin out, and wham, we're going to back stitch. Lift that on up and snip it off on the side. And there you have it. That's our 5/8 seam allowance on our money bag. Now we're going to flip this around to the bottom and start sewing down that part of the bag. Whichever side you choose to be the bottom is completely up to you. But please don't have your fabric bunched up on inside of the machine like that. Have it on the other side. Don't pay me no mind. Educational purposes only. But I did have my pins facing that way, so I just wanted to keep it lined up. So here, instead of lifting up my fabric, snipping it off and all of that, I'm just gonna lift up on the presser foot, rotate my fabric gently around, put my presser foot back down, back stitch, and just keep it going. Okay, that's the way. You don't have to keep going through all of that snipping. You can do that later. And we're just gonna go on down, remove our pins, and voila, both sides and the bottom of the money bag are now finished. So let's go ahead and lay that out and take a look at it. Of course, we still have the bag turned inside out. And as you can see, all the main sides are sewn together, and it's only left the top part, which we're going to fold and string. I'm just going to cut off that excess fabric around the bag. Please make sure you don't cut the inside of your thread where you sewed it together, because you're going to be pissed, I promise. Now we're getting on to step 2, and I will show you guys how to get rid of those pointy ends when we finish our money bag. So now we have our bag back on the right sides, and it is time to fold it over like so. And lay it out so we can begin to pin around the top of the bag where we're going to be sewing. So time to grab my handy dandy magnetic pin case. Begin to pin one side of this bag. Then we're going to flip it around and do the same thing for the other side, making sure it's lined up and even. All right, looking good already. And as you can see, have it pinned. And we're just gonna scoot that onto the sewing machine so we can get ready for the last step, almost last step really, of creating our money bags. So back to that 5/8 seam allowance, that's what I'm going to stick with, back stitch, and you're simply going to sew all the way around the bag until you come back to the part you started at. Remember to remove those pins, have them facing towards you, and now we're back at the beginning. We're going to back stitch. Go ahead and lift that up, snip the thread off. And there you have it. Snip that little excess piece off. And now it's time to string our money bag. So in order to do this, we're going to take both sides of the money bag and use our seam ripper to tear some of the threads only on the top part of the bag. We're not going to go all the way through the bag to the back side. We're only going to snip a few of those threads. Now you can also use scissors to just make a snip in that area. But of course, if you do plan on selling it, it will make a cleaner finish to do it this way. You're going to go above the thread that you sewed, and you're basically going to make a hole in the middle. You're not going to go all the way up to the top of the bag either. Just enough so you're able to slide your safety pin through the bag and take your string all the way around. So as you can see, it's coming along. I'm getting those threads snipped, pulling them out as I go. And that is enough right there. As you can see, how my pinky fits there. And we did not snip through the back side of the bag, only the top, and that's enough room for your safety pin to go through. And of course, you're going to do the same thing with the other side that you sewed together. Taking your seam ripper right above where you sewed and begin ripping those threads out right there in the middle. See, that one turned out to go a little bit smoother than the first side, and now we are ready. So let's get the stringing. Let's set that to the side. Grab your safety pin this time. I don't like using the very, very tiny ones. This I consider to be like a mid-size. You can use a large also, especially with the 5/8 seam allowance I used. A large one would be big enough to fit through that hole as well. Take your elastic cord, pull it through the safety pin. You don't have to pull it all the way, but just enough so that it doesn't come out in the process. And you will insert it into the hole that you've made on the side of the bag and start to scrunch. As you scrunch, be sure to hold the safety pin. You will be able to feel it from inside of the bag, because as you scrunch, you will pull. Scrunch and pull. Don't worry about bringing it through that second hole. You're going to come out of the same hole that you entered. Continue to scrunch past that hole. You're going to make it to the other side of the bag where you first entered the safety pin. Now, of course, you could always use one side string. I like to do two because it actually pulls better when you have two strings on both ends. And there we have it, one side complete. I'm just pulling that string and safety pin out. Voila. Now time to grab my contrasting elastic cord. I chose two colors because I thought it'd be cute with this tropical colored bag. Now it doesn't matter which direction you enter into. Just make sure that you bring the elastic out of the same end that you enter in. So now I'm just going to scrunch that, scrunch and pull, bypassing that second side where I entered the pink string. We're going to just keep going past that until we get around to the other side where we entered the green string. Green string. All right, and here we are. So now we have successfully strung both sides of our bag. And as you can see, it's so easy to pull when you have the 2 strings on both sides, like so. And there you have it, your own custom money bag. But now what we're going to tackle is to get rid of those pointy ends at the bottom of the bag. So let me show you a quick technique to spruce up your money bag / drawstring bag game, to ensure you have a professional looking bag that you can not only have for your own personal use, but to resell. So here we're going to line up the side and the bottom of the bag. I like to take 2 fingers and place it inside of the bag to help me do so. And you're simply just lining up the seams of each end, the side and the bottom, making like a triangle at the end. See there? And so what I'm going to do is pinch my triangle and take a pin to hold it in place. And go ahead and sew across from one side to the other. See, lay my triangle down, back stitch, front stitch, and back stitch again. So now there we have it. This is what it should look like. Of course, both seams pinned together, the side and the bottom, and I'm just going to take my scissors and snip off that excess fabric. Again, making sure that you don't snip off the actual part where you thread it. And there you have it. Of course, as always, we're going to repeat this step with the second side. Pinching my triangle, laying it on my machine, and sewing once again. Snip. And now both sides are complete. This is how it should look in the end. Almost like a boxed bottom. And we're just going to flip that inside out so you can get a better idea of how your bag will look compared to how it looked before. Ta-da! You have successfully completed your custom money bag. Congratulations, sisters. Yes. Yes, beautiful. Now on to part 2, custom thong. So here I have a leftover piece of fabric from the money bag, and I have my custom thong pattern. As you can see, I made it with a piece of paper bag. It has ends I can fold if I need to make it smaller. But for this video, I'm just going to keep it exactly how it is because I will be using the fold and sew method. I'm going to get my scissors and pins and start pinning that in place and simply cutting out the pattern, going all the way around that shape that I have, that triangular shape. Here I have fold over elastic, shiny fold over elastic. It's my favorite. I also get that from Amazon and I'll link it below. But today we're just going to fold and sew with a zigzag stitch because this is stretch fabric, and generally with stretch fabric you want to zigzag stitch down. I didn't do it with the bag because it wasn't necessary, but that's how the binding would look if I was to use that. You just fold the fabric inside of there and sew, which we'll show in another video. But today let's get started on this basic thong. Get my pins. set to a zigzag stitch. I have it on number 3. And as with the money bag, we will pin both sides of the thong together. I will be sewing one side and then I'll go back and pin the other. Simply going to zigzag stitch all the way down to the bottom of the thong. Very simple shape. As I said, it's just a long triangle. So depending on your size, you just measure from the front to the back to know what exact length you would need for your thong or one of your clients. Generally, I use 14 inches for the total length of my thongs. So one side done. Let's go ahead and pin the other side. Back stitch as always, and we're just going to sew that all the way down. Very simple. Now that that's done, that's the front and the back. Now we have to sew the top and the bottom. I put it on my sewing machine's end to help me fold it over and go ahead and flip it, put it under my presser foot and begin to sew. Going to repeat that same step with the bottom of the thong. And literally we are almost there. The only thing we have to do is snip off those excess pieces hanging off the sides and then string our thong. Just give it a clean finish, snip that off, snip those pieces, and we're moving to the table. Here's that 2mm Come cording. It comes in all kinds of great colors. I love them. It's stretchy. Of course, for this, these thongs usually sit at the lower waist, so that's the part you would want to measure to know exactly how much cording you would need. Remember, it does stretch as well. So I'm going to take it through the top part, stringing it just like we did the money bag, and then we're going to take it through the bottom parts of the thong. I got this measuring mat from Walmart. This is the smaller one, the 24 by 18. I also have one that's a yard long as well. Just gonna measure that out to make sure I have enough. I have more than enough to be able to tie a knot, which is what you're going to do to secure your thong. Snip those excess pieces off. And if you did want to hide that knot, you could always scrunch it inside of the thong. And there you have it. Custom money bag and your own custom thong. Beautiful. I can't wait to see you guys' work. Please comment below. Tell me what you think. And I can't wait to have you all as my new subscribers, because there are a lot of more great things to come. Yes, let's go ahead and turn her around so you can see. as you've seen today, that's all there is to it. I can't wait to have you guys as my new subscribers, so stay tuned because there's more where that came from.